Hello, everybody. I'm Johnny Calloway, host of the podcast Morph Into a New You. If you want to change your life, you got to change your mind about your life. Merry Christmas. This is Merry Christmas from the Morph Into a New You team. You're more than welcome to join the team anytime you want, and we would love to have you. And our gift to you today for Christmas is I'm going to talk about the gift of self-forgiveness and the importance of it. I've come to believe over the years that the most important thing, the goal of life, is to find peace of mind. And it's a challenge in this world. It's really a challenge. And the thing is, I can't talk about forgiveness without talking about the reason we need forgiveness. And the only reason we need forgiveness is guilt. And guilt is a tool used by the ego as sure as a crowbar is a tool used by a carpenter. And they're both used for the same reason. They have the same job, to pry apart. Because when we're feeling guilty, we're feeling separate from and alone. And that's what the ego uses it for. Now, I call it the ego because of my Course in Miracles training, but it has many different names. That part of the mind that wants us unhappy. Out in the rooms of the 12 steps, we call it the disease. In churches, we call it Satan. In the Course in Miracles, we call it the ego. So I'm going to stick with the ego. And the ego has a job, and its main job is to keep us miserable and to keep us separated from our fellow man and from our source. For me, it's God. But it can be whatever you choose it to be. The thing is, guilt is used to keep us in misery. And forgiveness is our way out. And there are many parts of forgiveness. Most people approach the concept of forgiveness as though we're trying to acquire the ability to tolerate someone. It's almost as if we reach a point with somebody we feel that has wronged us, or we almost say, okay, I'm going to allow you to be on the planet with me now because I've forgiven you. That's not really forgiveness. Forgiveness is more about acquiring the ability to appreciate someone. And I know the question comes up, how in the hell can I appreciate somebody that, like an abusive parent that has molested me? And well, there's so many parts of that, so many pieces that lead to that. And if you stick with me on these videos and with my blogs and on my website, johnnycalloway.com, we will explore how you can get to that. I know for me, there's something I read, and I'm not sure where I read it now. I thought for the longest I read it in the Course in Miracles, but I couldn't find it in there when I went to look for it. But I did read it, and it's saying to my soul, and it is, your true healing lies in your identifying with your sameness. Well, what we do is when let's say you believe that, and you go looking for that, and let's say you were molested as a child, and you yourself would never do that. So where is the sameness in that? Well, that was my story, exactly. I was abused as a child, and when I wanted to forgive my dad, it's like there were so many things that he had done that I would never do. So I had to become open-minded enough to look beyond the act to the cause of the act, which was the thought and the feeling and the emotion that drove the behavior. And what I discovered was I could definitely relate and identify with that. People have a tendency to view anger and rage as power. And it's like the more angry someone is, the more rageful someone is, the more power they have. Well, that is exactly the opposite of the truth. When I came to realize that my dad's anger was only demonstrative of his rage was only demonstrative of his terror. My dad was so incredibly terrorized and that people were going to leave him and that no one was going to love him and that the love that he had, he would never be able to express and that he would never be able to live with that love because he was terrified of it. That I could identify with. I did a podcast with Dr. Eric Gentry way back in my early podcasting days and we talked about PTSD in the attic. And he said something that I hope I never forget. He said, when someone is traumatized, they are robbed of hope. And after that, the world becomes an unsafe place to live. And everything they encounter, they react to with fear. And it's either fight or flight. For my dad, most of the time it was fight. Oddly enough, that fight was also his way of fleeing because it kept people at a distance. And it kept him, in his mind, it kept him safe. Those things I could identify with. The behavior, we get locked in on what we can see with our physical eye. And we identify with the form of what is going on. As long as I'm identifying with the form, I'll probably never attain forgiveness. But the emotion, which is driven by the feeling, which is driven by the thought, my dad lived in an unsafe world because of the traumas that he had encountered. And I know for some of you, it'd be like, well, my dad was never traumatized like that. You don't know that. You don't know where trauma comes from. And we don't know. I have to be willing to be in the space of not knowing. I don't know the whole story. How many friends have you had, or how many people do you know, or how many books have you read where somebody at some point in their adult life, the memory surfaced and things came that had happened to them that they had stuffed so deep? But they came. So you don't know what someone has been through. So trusting that spiritual principle, spiritual law is constant, is paramount. My dad and I ended up being incredibly close before he passed because I forgave him. And there's many other pieces of this that hopefully I'll be able to get to it on another show. But for today, for Christmas, I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, and I want to hopefully open your mind to the concept of forgiveness, because peace of mind is the aim in life. There's a line in A Course in Miracles, I'm pretty sure it's in A Course in Miracles, that says, peace of mind is the only thing that deserves your true vigilance. And when we're pursuing these things, houses, cars, relationships, when we're pursuing those things, what we're really hoping for is peace of mind. The trick is, if we have peace of mind, those other things do not matter anymore. And then we can have them and enjoy them instead of having them from a fear place of how do I need to protect them. I hope that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. So, Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Happy New Year, and I hope you're willing to at least explore the concept of self-forgiveness, because if you're still carrying around a bag load of guilt, peace of mind is going to be almost impossible to attain. And without peace of mind, the rest of it is just stuff. It's just stuff. So you can find me and all my other podcasts, my other YouTube videos, my blogs, my books. You can find everything at johnnycalloway.com. That's JohnnyCalloway. And on that website, down in the bottom right-hand corner of the homepage, is a chat tab. You can post a question there, and I'll do the best I can to answer it. Thank you, and again, Merry Christmas.